Hi, I'm Chris Murray, Technical Marketing Specialist at Autodesk Media and Entertainment. Thanks for stopping by to check out my video. This video I'm going to be covering some things about 3D Studio Max that I just happen to like. They're kind of things that I use every day, things that I run into when I talk with people who are using our software. When I was teaching, these were common questions that I got asked a lot, so I just decided to share them with you. You've probably heard some of them. You maybe know them already. Maybe you've never heard of them at all, and it'll change the way you work. But either way, I appreciate you stopping by. I'm about to head out to SIGGRAPH to present this live at the area community theater, but you've had a chance to see it here. I'm recording this right before I head out, so thanks a lot. I hope you enjoy it, and good luck using 3D Studio Max. So let's just go ahead and jump right in here. Here's my nice tiger print teapot. And first thing that we're going to be looking at is using some of the poly tools for aligning some of the sub-objects, specifically vertices. A lot of times when you're modeling, you may have received geometry from someplace else, or it's a little bit out of whack, or maybe you're working on a curved surface or something like that, and your vertices aren't true to any particular plane, and you need to actually get them back into true to continue modeling, or just to clean up the model or whatever else. And you can see, we have a lot of vertices, here on the spout. These vertices in particular, those aren't true to the viewport, neither of these. In this case, it may be what you want, but maybe you have to, for some reason, line it back up. That is where these tools come in over here on the command panel for editable poly, and I believe they're also on the edit poly modifier. It's right here called Make Planar X, Y, and Z. These are very, very handy tools. So for example, I can just select all the vertices there, and if I say Make Planar, what it does is it basically averages the normal direction on that and makes them planar or all flat. But more specifically, you can then choose any one of these axes and align them to that construction plane. So for example, there is Z, and we are now perfectly aligned to the Z-axis for those. Now obviously I grabbed a bunch of vertices that were in there, so let's take a look on something that's probably a little more specific. So if I say Make Planar, not really what I want. But if we do Make Planar Z, okay, there we go. Those are actually nice and flat and true to the viewport. So this is one thing that I really, really like. I remember first time I was doing it, I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. Another thing that I really like, besides being able to adjust the plane that the vertices are aligned to, is actually being able to move the vertices in a specific way. And to do that, I use a thing called Constraint. So right here, we have our constraints commands, and notice I'm in vertex of object mode. I like to go into edge constraint a lot, and what this allows me to do is this allows me to grab any vertex, and it'll move it right along any edge that I kind of move in the direction of. It won't fly out into 3D space, and it won't get lost in the back of the viewport. So for example, if I just go ahead and grab this vertex, notice it slides left and right there, or if I grab it here, it slides up and down that edge and allows me to really have a great deal of control over where I place it. So that is really a great tool to have. It's very easy to use. You just turn on edge in vertex mode. You turn on edge, and you can move your vertex up and down those edges any way you need to make sure that the geometry stays nice and clean, and that your vertices are aligned and not lost off into the back of the viewport. The next thing we're going to look at is really one of my all-time favorites in 3ds Max, and that is the Outliner. Outliner is a free plug-in script that's available from the scriptspot.com, and it is written by a guy in the Netherlands, I think. And it is like one of the most useful scripts ever. It has changed the way I use 3D Studio Max. I use it 95-98% of the time. It is open permanently. Eventually, sometimes I have to close it, because even since it is a script, there are very, very few things that it doesn't play nice with. But most of the time, it's definitely something that will change the way you work in Max. And I guess if anything you spend with me in this half hour, if you take away one thing, this is it. The Outliner is very inspired by the Maya Outliner, in my opinion. I can't speak for the developer, but that's my takeaway on it. And what it is, it's a layering system. So it's a cousin to the layer manager. So I have here's the layer manager that we normally use, and you can see it has a lot of similarities to it. I'll go ahead and unhide the object that we're going to be using for this. This is our little interactive mannequin guy. I'll go ahead and put him in interactive IK mode. He can, hey, how's it going? So with Outliner, though, we can do a lot of interesting things. I'm looking in layer mode right now, and this works just like layers. In fact, the majority of the time I'm in Outliner, I'm using layers. I'm doing scene. I use it for scene management mainly. You can do a lot of things. Obviously, you can hide and unhide layers. You can select multiple layers. You can freeze them, or you can, unfreeze them. Well, if you select them all, you can unfreeze them. So you have a lot of layer control there. If you open it up, you can see the objects underneath the layer, and you can do some things in here. So, for example, if I'm working directly in the layer, I can freeze them or hide them from directly within the layer. Again, really easy types of thing to do. If I just want to select an object, I can do it. I can go right into the layer and do it. If I need to rename an object, I just double click on it and I can rename it. There are some other actually very interesting things that can be done with Outliner that adds functionality separate from the regular layer manager. Let me go over to the hierarchy view. And so this just shows us every object in the scene. So you can see I have a lot of other objects in the scene that are currently hidden, which is kind of the difference. If we go over here and look at the layer view and I'm in the Outliner mode, you can see just the objects that are part of that. If I wanted to, I could generate a new layer at either over here or over here. Generating layers is really one of the strengths of Outliner. So I can select the entire left side of the body, for example, and I can just right click and I can say add this selection to either a new container, I can add it to a new group, or I can add it to a new layer. I can create a layer right here, or I can send it to any of the pre-existing layers if I just need to move it around. So in terms of scene organization, this thing is amazing. So I'll just say new layer, and I'll call this left side, and I have a new layer created just like that. And there it is down there, okay? And I can hide it, freeze it, I can do whatever. If I want to, I can just send these guys right back to the layer from which they came. So I'll say add selection to the Outliner layer, and they're back. You'll notice that left side is now empty, and if I wanted to, I could delete it. So really, really cool. Another great thing about this is the ability to create drag and drop hierarchies. I mean, this is really, really easy to do. I can do it either here in the main outline view, or I can do it over here. Again, like I said, I do most of my stuff over here because it's really a lot easier to do that. So we'll go ahead and actually, let me show you this though. Let me go back to this side here, and we'll look. Here's the left side point object. So you can see that I have, if I unhide that pointer object, or this point helper, you can see that I have a whole hierarchy here of a point, bicep, forearm, left hand point helper, and a hand. We can create those hierarchies right here. So you can see I have a right side or right shoulder point object. So I'll go ahead and unhide that, and there's I'll unhide that. And so what I can do is I can begin drag and dropping my hierarchy. So for example, we'll do the right hand as onto the point. We'll drag the point up to the forearm. So we'll grab the point and drag it up to the forearm, drag the forearm onto the bicep, and I'm doing a middle mouse drag. And then I can finally do the right shoulder point, just drag it down to there. And now I've created my hierarchy, drag and drop, really easy to do. I can hide the point, whatever. Really, really easy. Another cool thing is all of the different ways that you can filter objects. So for example, if I want to select anything that's on the left side of the body with my naming convention on left underscore, I can just type in L underscore and it filters. Even if the stuff isn't a hierarchy, it filters any of those objects so I can get right to it. Another thing that I really like is the ability to go in and look at things by material. So for example, if I'm in material mode, instead of giving me a list of objects, it gives me a list of materials in the scene. And if I expand the hierarchy there, it shows me what objects are assigned that material. So all of these objects have the same material on them. If I want them to have a different material, using the same principle as dragging a hierarchy, I can just drag these down to the gold material, for example, and there you have it. Those objects now have the gold material. If I want to put them back, I'll just drag and drop them back up to the default material. So that is a really great way to see what objects have a material. It also has a category called unassigned. So any object that is not actually assigned a material gets put up here, and you can drag and drop it around that way. So that's pretty cool. Filters or sorting mode. Let me go back to hierarchy here. Sort mode, you can sort by alphabetical. You can sort by chronological, which I think is kind of interesting. The time at which the objects were made. You can sort by layer, so it'll kind of sort everything by layer that's there, or sort by material or by type of object, or whether it's visible or not. So you can have all of your visible objects up at the top or not. The other cool thing is that, of course, you can enable filters, so you can set up custom filters here. I have them all off at the moment, so everything disappeared. But if I bring it back, you can have custom filters. So again, really easy to do. The other thing I like is the fact that it's dockable. I mean, I can just grab this, I can move it around, I can put it wherever I want. I can dock it over here if I want. I can leave it here. And when it's docked there, when you launch Max, it'll automatically come up and be in place. So it's something that I've just kind of learned to keep here on the left side of my interface. I use it all the time. So if you haven't used Outliner, I highly recommend it. You can get a hold of it. You can go to ScriptSpot, or you can go to 360.nl, and he has a version there. Installation is easy. Support is easy. This is, he didn't ask me to do this. I'm not receiving anything for it. This is just a good tool that someone made that I use a lot, and I'm sharing it with other people because I think it's really effective. The third thing we're going to take a look at is something that I really like. It's very simple, it's very elegant, but it's very effective, and that is this. Box is the new sphere. When I was honing my skills as a modeler, I was having to make some organically shaped stuff sometimes, and sometimes I'd start with a sphere and start working, but I always ran into the problem of having the poles of the sphere primitive, get in my way because they are indeed triangles. And so I would always have to spend a lot of time cleaning that stuff up, and that was really annoying. So it dawned on me that eventually, if you take a box and add the Spherify modifier to it, you get a sphere that is made out of all quads. So when you take a look at it at the pole, there is nothing there but quads. You do get a little bit of topology here that you may have to deal with, but at least those are all quads, and it's nothing compared to what you would have to do to get the triangles out of there. Additionally, if I go ahead and put it, get rid of the wireframe there, you can kind of see you still have some of the smoothing groups from the sphere, but that's easily rectified with a smooth modifier, and then at the end of the day, you can't even tell that that was at one point a box. So box is a great idea to use as a sphere when you have to start off modeling if you're doing anything with organic objects. These next two things that I like have to do with the Slate material editor, and for this we're going to use our Archer character here. So you can kind of see he's pretty well detailed. We have a lot of texture detail in him. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I'll be switching back and forth between renders, and if I'm working in a particular type of material, it may or may not work in the render that I need to use. So what I have here is I have our Slate material editor open, and I have a couple of different views. If you don't know how to create a view, all you have to do is just right click here and say create new view, and you can give it whatever name you want, and you can organize your materials that way. So that's kind of a really kind of a good thing to use. So I have our Archer material here, and instead of going through and creating all new materials just for use in another renderer, you can quickly do that process without destroying the other material, basically taking advantage of the wiring controls within Slate to quickly generate another material. So for example, I have a bitmap here for the diffuse, I have a bitmap here for the glossiness and the bump maps. Without working within the same space, I can have this material, but then I can also just quickly reconstruct a new material using the glossiness. Let's see, there's the reflection glossiness and the diffuse map. So very quickly, without a lot of mouse clicks and digging through menus, I don't have to recreate an entirely new material. All I have to do is just rewire it. I still have this material here. I have this material ready to go. All I have to do is right click and say assign material to selection, and it'll pop right on there. And I can quickly switch back and forth between materials depending on what I'm doing. So that's kind of one thing that I really like about Slate, is that I can switch back and forth between different types of materials and try different things. The next thing that I like is this little field over here. on the material map browser, it kind of sometimes just gets lost because you have all of these other materials here and everything's a rollout and you're kind of navigating things. But if we go in here, I can start searching for materials based on a specific name. So for example, I can type the letter M and it'll bring up all of the letters all the materials and map types that begin with M, or I can do ME, metal, then we can get all of our metal stuff. So it's really, very useful to have to just come in here, and if I know what I'm looking for, if I'm looking for noise, I just say, noise, and there it is right there. I don't have to do a lot of digging, so I really like this field. Additionally, I can go in and I can have material groups. Now, this is really kind of cool. So I can have, my materials. And so I have a new rollout here that says my materials. And then what I can do is I can start adding this. So I can just drag and drop my noise material there. Maybe I'll go back and get another metal. I'll bring this metal in here. I know I use color correct a lot, so I'll get color correction. And I know I use ambient occlusion a lot, so I'll get ambient occlusion in here. And I know for sure I'm going to be doing some standard materials. And I know for sure I'm going to be doing some arch design materials and maybe a subsurface scattering one. So we'll go ahead and get this. So very quickly I can build my own set of materials that I'm always going to use, and I no longer have to kind of troll through the menu system and get them. So I've added in a bitmap, so you can very quick and easy to do. And of course, this can then be saved as a material library that you can transport with you wherever you go. But I really like having it. I really like having it here. So when it comes to materials, those are a couple of things that I really like about the Slate Material Editor. Number 6 is something that I really like, and that is having clean geometry and some of the tools that are in 3ds Max to do that. In 2011, 3ds Max 2011, we introduced a lot of modeling tools, graphite modeling tools. Actually, back in 2010, I believe, Max 2010. And a lot of them have really kind of grown on me as some of my core go-to tools for some of this stuff. So I have this head here. I'm going to show you just a couple of things for cleaning up geometry. I'm going to go ahead and open up my graphite modeling tools, and I'm going to go ahead and move my loop panel over here. I don't know if you know that these are actually organizable. You can do whatever you want with them, but I have my loops here. So I'm going to turn on some auto selective some loops. I'm just going to grab some loops here. And there's a tool here called Set Flow. And what this does is this basically goes in and it's kind of a relax. It relaxes the average distance between the edges. So if you look there, I can go ahead and I can just kind of space those out. So let me undo that a little bit. You can see we get a nice even spacing between there. Another thing that is really cool is Geo Poly. That is another one that I really like. And Geo Poly, if I go over to polygon mode, actually, here's a little tip for you. Let me go back to here. If you hold down the control key and you switch over to polygon mode, whatever polygons are in intersection with the edges that you have will automatically become selected. So that's my gift to you today. If you go over here to Geo Poly will automatically try to square off any of the quads or polygons that are part of that selection. So if you have some small noodly polygons that are in here that are a little odd shaped, and you go in here and say Geo Poly, it will try to kind of correct that a little bit and average out the surface area of the polygons. So it's just some nice little tweaks in there that you can do. So Set Flow and Geo Poly are a couple of things that I really like to do. One of the things, why not use the Relax tool, the Relax Paint tool? If I come over here and I get the Paint tool and I relax, the reason, I use it, but if you can see, not only does it relax the polygons, but it kind of pushes it in and kind of deforms the shape a little bit. So although that gives me some nice, smooth, rounded polys, sometimes I really just am more concerned about the spacing of the topology and not the actual surface shape itself. So that's kind of why I do them a little bit differently. But definitely, for sure, in edge mode, Set Flow, and in polygon mode, Geo Poly. Okay, before I actually went to work for Autodesk, I was doing a lot of training consulting. I was doing corporate training. I was also teaching at a university, teaching people how to use Max, real-time modeling, all kinds of different things. And This inevitably, I don't care if it was the freshman student, first time on Macs, or if it was the seasoned corporate power user or whatever, a lot of times I would always get this one. What happened to my Gizmo? I can't move my objects. My Gizmo has disappeared. Well, here is the answer. X is the keyboard shortcut to stop this madness. All right? What do I mean by that? There is my transform Gizmo down there. If I hit X on the keyboard, it goes away. If I hit X on the keyboard, it comes back. So the problem is that people are using the spacebar for lock a lot, and actually, I actually have the spacebar switched over to animation because a lot of my editing apps use that. But if you have the spacebar set to control the lock button, your left hand is right there, and if you're doing Alt Command shortcuts or whatever, X is right there. It's frequently hit as a mistake. So please get control of yourselves and please stop the madness. And a little extra bonus on this one, the plus and minus keys on the alphanumeric portion of the keyboard, not the keypad, on the alphanumeric portion of the keyboard allow you to manually resize the transform Gizmo. This next one, number 8, a lot of people probably know about this one, but I actually stumble across some people who still don't know about it. And if you don't know about it and you're like in the minority, that's okay. Believe me, I'm here to help you today for that very reason. And that is this. Changing the time segments. A lot of people really get annoyed by having to come over here and do a start time and end time, and they're working really close and they just want to look around. And so you have your time slider here, right? You have your time slider here, and you really just want to work, frame 40 to frame 65 or whatever. The keyboard shortcuts for that are really kind of fun. And what we do is you hold down your middle mouse button and you hold down the Control and Alt key, and that slides the timeline forward and backward on any given point. Additionally, if you want to zoom in on a specific time, same deal, Control and Alt, and the right button extends, moves the time this way, and the left button extends the time to the left, and you can zoom in very quickly and see what's going on. If we zoom it back out, you just grab, again, the corresponding left and right mouse button. It's actually one of the more useful keyboard shortcuts for sure. It's for time sliding and moving the segment around, and so definitely take advantage of that. And so the last thing we're going to look at is the Sds Modifier. And honestly, I really don't use this one too much, but I really do like the way it works. For when you're doing Subdivision Surface. I know some people use it all the time. For whatever reason, I love to talk about it, but I never get to use it, so I wanted to use it for this video. So HSDS is a Subdivision Surface modifier. It does local subdivision on quads, so you really want to make sure you have good, clean quads for this. Unlike the NURMS toggle or Turbo Smooth smooths out the entire thing. This is local, based on its whatever subobject selection you have, and it is also hierarchical. So you can navigate up and down your selection. So I'll go ahead and let's see if we can go to shaded mode on this. I think that'll probably look a little better. And I'll move in here. I'm just going to I'm in subobject mode here. I'm just going to grab a couple of these things, and maybe the edges of the fingers as well, and get that going. Just kind of move that. I'm going to turn off my rotate tool so I don't accidentally move anything. We'll just grab these real quick before we add. Alright, so the modifier is actually on. We go into subobject mode, and then we click subdivide, and you can see right away that things are immediately smoothed over. And you'll also notice in here that let me go ahead and turn off my camera here. You'll also notice that the subdivisions are local. So if we turn the modifier off, you can see that it's only subdividing the polygons that are selected. So if I add a couple more, it begins to run. If we look at how it's handling the geometry here, it's beginning to do some runs down here. Now the only problem you have to worry about is eventually getting a T-vertex. So you just kind of have to be aware of how that's going to work. The good news is that it is all quads and you're working with subdivisions, so it's you can navigate back and forth, so you can always go see the base level or whichever level you're working on, and it's a nice little tool to use. Additionally, it will, if you do have all quads, it will allow you to remove detail as well, and give you the you can kind of experiment with those parameters to do it. So you can do a couple of interesting things with this. It's an interesting little tool. I wish to use it more often because it does some really neat things.